To get us started today, I would like to share with you some thoughts I recently presented at a TEDx talk. And over the next 20 minutes, more or less, I would like to invite you to imagine with me the school for the future, a school that really prepares our students for the 21st century. Over the last 100 years, technology has changed our lives dramatically. We invented factories, mass production, cars, planes, during the second industrial revolution around 1900. In the middle of last century, during the third industrial revolution, we created computers, started to digitize our world, and went to the moon. And today, in the age of Industry 4.0, we rely on the internet in our lives and 24/7 connectivity. On average, we have more than 80 apps on our smartphones. Very soon, if not already today, IoT, AI, AR, and VR will be part of our lives, both at home and at work, and why not in schools? If you doubt this at all, just check out the Replica app to meet your new AI friend and get a glance into the future. But it won't stop here. One of the fascinating questions of the future will be how humans and machines will collaborate in the workplace. The fifth industrial revolution is just around the corner. And the question is, how do we prepare our pupils for this world? Looking back, we have come a long way in the last 100 years, haven't we? Compare Tesla's self-driving electric car with Ford's Model T, introduced to the world just 100 years earlier. Imagine a hospital room in the 1920s. Probably nobody from the 1920s would recognize a hospital room today. Now think about a classroom. In the 1920s, it looked like this. 50 years later, in the 70s, when I started to go to school, and today, what comes to your mind? At the core, while cars and hospitals and many, many other things in our lives have changed really dramatically, at their core, classrooms and schools look much the same today as they did 100 years ago, when learning was focused on standardization, when the main objective of schools was to prepare boys to work in factories and girls to raise their children at home. In 1920, a class had a teacher, 30 or 40 students, and a blackboard. Today, a teacher, 30 students, and a blackboard. In 1920, learning was mainly teacher-led and instructional. Today, in most schools, I would say, learning is still mainly teacher-led and instructional. In 1920s, students had to memorize a lot of content just to pass a standardized test and then forget most of it. Today, you get the idea. Think about it. Technology has changed profoundly all aspects of our life. But I would argue that our education systems and schools have not kept up with this change. And I strongly believe that we cannot prepare our students who will leave school in 2030 or 2035 for the world they will be living in by pushing them through an education system that looks much the same as it did 100 years ago. Over the last 10 years working in education, I concluded that we need to question the status quo of today's schools on 5 levels. I call it the smart school model. To build smart schools that prepare our children for the future, we need to question and rethink the skills we teach, the teaching methods we apply, the way we assess learning, the spaces and rooms where learning is taking place, and finally, the role teachers play and how we need to train them. Let's have a closer look at the smart school model. What if schools help children build their purpose in life while teaching a curriculum for the future? Who cares about what you know when Google knows everything, right? Soon, when machines and AI have taken over most of today's jobs, knowledge will still be necessary, but not sufficient. The question then will be what our kids can do with their knowledge. To solve problems creatively, knowledge will still matter, but skills will matter more. Imagine the creative and entrepreneurial power we could unleash in our kids if schools focused on teaching the skills we all know will make the difference in the future. Communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and above all, creativity and empathy. In those skills, humans will always be better than machines. But we can't teach them as a general ability if at the same time we keep teaching shallow knowledge in all subjects, measuring learning by the amount of memorized facts. According to Professor Keith Sawyer of University of North Carolina, the best way to teach creativity is to teach creative knowledge in all subjects. The same holds true for all other skills. The good news is there are people out there who are working on new approaches to teach those skills, to help us as teachers in schools teach those skills. For example, Malaysia-based edtech startup Youthtopia, who's building a platform with custom-made games and interactive instructor-led activities to help pupils think critically, solve problems creatively, and communicate effectively. Motivation is another crucial ingredient for meaningful learning. As Stephen Kotler, best-selling author and performance expert, describes in his book, The Art of Impossible, motivation is the sum of drive, grit, and goals. And the most potent intrinsic drivers are curiosity, passion, purpose, autonomy, and mastery. Imagine a school that stimulates their students' curiosity, helping them discover their passions and leading them to build their purpose in life. A school that gives them the necessary autonomy to reach true mastery in all they do. On top of skills, we stack the second layer, methods. What if learning in schools were both effective and fun? Kids learn profoundly by applying what they learn. As brain coach Jim Quick points out in his book, Limitless, knowledge by itself is not power, it's potential power. It only becomes power when we apply it. Imagine a school where learning is 100% learning by doing, no textbooks, no memorizing of facts without context, but learning with focus on real-world problems that promote learning across disciplines with a lot of room to improvise and the process to reach true mastery. Imagine a school where kids immerse themselves in project-based learning experiences, a school where peer learning is the norm, not the exception. When children teach each other, they get to learn it twice. Imagine a school where learning is a journey to discover answers to why, where how might we questions and problems lead to authentic learning adventures. As an example, Key to Science is a Finnish edtech company that creates learning modules that combine play, story, imagination, and science skills. Focusing on the age between 3 and 8, Key to Science helps to enhance science experiences, sparking the interest at a very young age. And this actually is a good example for a change of the paradigm that is so much needed, from learning by listening to learning by playing and doing, while enhancing creative knowledge and asking questions instead of answering previous knowledge. Another example is Immerse, a platform using virtual reality to ease the learning of languages to their users. Immerse allows students to practice their language skills with structured learning experiences. Equipped with a VR headset, students use avatars to communicate and practice their English through a range of topics and themes. And there are many, many other examples out there. The third level is assessment. Research shows that even students who do well in exams often don't understand the material in today's schools. And the skills we need to teach them for the future can't be measured by standardized tests anyway. Imagine a school without exams. Continuous feedback from teachers, peers, and AI makes exams at the end of the quarter unnecessary. Short feedback loops allow students in real time to identify learning gaps, and technology proposes personalized learning paths to close those gaps. Today, we have a number of edtech platforms available to support us. For example, PeerGrade, a Danish company that allows students to give each other anonymous feedback on assignments set by their teacher. Or Formative, a platform that allows real-time tracking and many ways to give feedback, from automatic grading using technology to personalized real-time text, audio, visual, and video feedback. Imagine a school where a high level of personalized learning takes place, a school where each student reaches mastery at their own rhythm. Each student moves on to the next level of knowledge only when they have reached mastery on the previous level. As a result, each student always stays at their challenge skills sweet spot, the place where motivation and learning are optimal, working just a few percentage points above their current level, sufficiently stretching, but not frustratingly hard. This is how we ensure daily progress and deep understanding. And that is very different from what's happening today. Because if I get, let's say, a 70% in a final exam, what the teacher is actually telling me, I have a 30% knowledge gap. But then we move on to the next bit of content. And nobody really helps me as a student to close this 30% knowledge gap. So we build the next knowledge on top of that knowledge gap. And that's not leading to mastery. Edulastic is another example that allows really quickly identify learning gaps with diagnostic and formative assessments, give students differentiated assignments, then based on that assessment to remediate and reinforce or challenge. And you monitor the progress towards standards mastery to ensure that all students stay on track. Imagine a school where failure is not seen as something to be avoided, but celebrated as a learning opportunity. Aren't we celebrating the first steps of our kids when they're falling down and then get up again and walk? Why are we not doing this in school? So this brings us to the next layer, rooms. What if the world were our classroom? Imagine a school that is not defined by its buildings, but as a service offering limitless learning opportunities. A school that offers physical learning and maker spaces, combined with virtual learning environments and spaces created by augmented reality. You've probably seen this already. Fuji Kindergarten in Japan, which has been selected as the best school in the world by the OECD and UNESCO. A school really integrated in nature without walls and without separations between classes to allow seamless creativity and inspiration. Another example for a different type of environment is Terra Educa, a unique project which will be developed in a small rural town outside of Barcelona in Spain, combining an innovation lab with a school. The innovation lab's objective is the design and experimentation and development of solutions for the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. And the pupils who will study in the school next to the lab will be able to learn from and with the experts working in the lab on solutions for the future. This is real life learning, not textbook learning. And I'm really looking forward to see this project become a reality soon. Imagine a school where learning groups are not defined by the age or where you live. A school where students learn with and from students with similar curiosities, interests, and learning levels. Imagining a school that offers limitless learning opportunities. Technology facilitates interaction and collaboration among students from around the world. Students are not limited to the courses of their local school or the knowledge of their local teachers, but can access online classes from schools around the world. Automatic real-time translations eliminate language barriers. Technology can really eliminate barriers here. We are living in an age of innovation. Technology will further change our lives and our work and how we study. But if we want to bring smart schools to life, we also have to rethink the role and training of teachers, the fifth and last level of the smart school model. What if teachers learned in school as much as their students? Sounds provocative, right? Today, a practical education must prepare our students for work that does not yet exist, in a future that cannot be clearly defined. Lifelong learning will be the future of today's students, but it also has to be the present of their teachers. Imagine a school where teachers learn as much as their students, maybe even from their students from time to time. Imagine a school where teachers constantly learn from each other, both within their school and globally. Think of the learning potential if a teacher could zoom every week into a class of a different teacher in a different school or a different country, just to get inspired, to learn, and to give feedback. I, as an entrepreneur, have a couple of mentors in different countries who are in a similar situation and maybe a little bit more advanced, so I can learn a lot from them. Why are we not building systems like this for teachers as well? Imagine a future where teachers are not seen as the all-knowing professor, but as true coaches and mentors who help their students discover their passions to build their purpose in life. Because once students understand why they learn what they learn, mastery will be the result. We need smart schools, schools that adapt to a fast-changing world. We need a paradigm shift to educate our children for the future, not just a little bit more group work or projects or teaching of coding and creativity. We need to teach our kids to learn to learn. In fact, I believe learning to learn will be the ultimate skill of the future, in a way the killer app of our schools. You might not agree with all the details in my vision, and that's entirely okay. We are here to discuss. Furthermore, different environments, countries, or realities will doubtless demand specific solutions. Therefore, we shouldn't worry about the specific answers, but about asking the right question. Let's do it for our children. Of course, change is hard and complicated, but it does not mean it's impossible. And it might be expensive, but no doubt, the COI, the cost of inaction, would be considerably higher for our societies. Technology allows us to create a better, more personalized, and more inclusive education for all. But technology will not be sufficient. We also need to empower the human aspect of teachers as true mentors. Let's not wait until somebody else makes the first step. I'm convinced that the only way to change our education system is from within, lesson by lesson, classroom by classroom, one school after another. Let's start rethinking schools. Dear teachers listening today, let's be smart. Let's apply our knowledge to turn it into power to change what needs to change. Here's my challenge for you. Share and discuss the what-if questions of the smart school model with your colleagues to find your answers and your vision. And discuss them as how might we statements. Look for what's possible, not for the barriers. Start with small, simple steps. Start today.